Hello and welcome to the explanation of my Squire Sunburst project. What went wrong? About almost everything. Yep. This is the kind of video that no one wants to make, but I feel I need to anyway. In this video I'll be discussing what went wrong with my first guitar repaint project, and before you judge, how many of your first do-it-yourself projects did you execute perfectly the first time and achieve a flawless outcome? I will be sharing with you how I completed my first guitar project and what I can advise someone who is thinking of repainting or refinishing a guitar for the first time based on my own experience. The first thing I'd like to say is that I don't believe a really good sunburst can be achieved with spray cans. Many experienced painters would agree. However, nitrocellulose lacquer is what guitar professionals use, and I have seen cans of nitro being used on YouTube with an acceptable result for a sunburst. I believe Australia has laws that make it hard to obtain here. I've never seen it in the shops. I would not use spray cans again because I now have a spray gun and the results are far more controlled. So my options for paint were limited by my knowledge of products and a slight bit of stubbornness on my part. I bought enamel because I really didn't think that there would be a difference between the options, and I would have to shop around a bit to find acrylic or solvent-based products. I bought white night enamel paints, yellow, red and black, which would be good for anything except a guitar. The problem with enamel in my experience is that when many layers are applied, it forms a thick rubbery skin that when pressure is applied can be imprinted easily by a fingernail, for instance. I first noticed this when after 24 hours of painting the red over the yellow, I assumed the paint had fully dried and laid the body of the guitar on a towel. The next morning there were imprints of all the curly loops of the towel across most of the surface that had made contact. In the end, because of how thick the enamel paint built up, it did not become a hard coat. It seems that the enamel paint is almost acting fluidly under the surface that is protected by the clear coat. From this experience, I have a theory on how you might use enamel without this rubbery result. My untested theory is that if you applied maybe 3 of the thinnest coats and baked it or left it to fully cure between each layer for 48 hours, it might harden enough to be a usable paint for a guitar. Maybe just 2 coats if you could get away with it. Looking back, I remember that I was layering each coat of yellow on quite thick, yet not so thick that there would be runs. Before I talk about the clear coat, let me admit that the video you can see on YouTube already and how the guitar looks now is not the first attempt at the sunburst. I had already sanded back my first attempt on this guitar because I freehanded the sunburst edge and did a terrible job. The red and black sunburst around the edge was too thick, as in it came in too far on the faces of the body. This was absolutely shocking on the back and almost bearable on the front. This is despite all the practice and experimentation of my technique on some plywood I cut into the shape of my guitar. I knew it looked quite unacceptable for a burst, as a real burst only just covers the edge of the face and starts fading immediately. At this time I thought, oh well, this is just how it turned out, and kept on with the project.
Put your glasses back on.
Near the end of the painting process, I taped off the burst so that I could add another layer of black just to the sides where my previous wet sanding had burnt through to the layer beneath. The taped off edge caused a noticeable outline like a rim around the front, just kind of like a step up. So when I wet sanded to smooth out this noticeable edge, the lower layer of black cut through to the red on the front for about an inch.
Put your glasses back on.
While I was angry, I thought I would run with the mistake and continue all the way around the burst like a really crap effect that no one would ever do intentionally. I was so close to finishing this project and thought fixing this one issue would risk making the bad burst look worse than it did already. So I continued the red line of burn all the way around the front. I thought it might make it look unique, but in the end, I realised it kinda just looked like a child had taken a red crayon and traced around the inside edge of the burst. Again, at the time, I accepted this to the point of clear coating it with one layer. But the regret and anger of the mistake grew, and within 24 hours I decided to sand the whole thing back and repaint it with a new method to control the painting of the burst and possibly learn from the mistakes I had made so far. However, I had not yet realised the mistake of using enamel paints to start with. What pushed me to take this all the way back was the idea that I had already spent maybe 3 months painting, sanding back to the previous layer of colour, and repainting again. This led me to consider the progress so far as a trial run. 2 more weeks of work would make it all worth it. I had learnt from the methods that I had been trying and devised a new way to control the paint, limiting it just to the edge where I needed it. My estimation of time was correct because I got back to the clear coat phase in about 16 days. Only my idea for the new technique improved the outcome, but it still failed to look like a real factory burst. For the polyurethane clear coat, I chose a water-based product, and I applied it with a paintbrush. The problem with water-based product is that it's creamy in the can, and it is supposed to cure completely clear. But if applied too thick, it will not be able to. I applied the first coat with a brush, and could see streaks of white through it for about a week. When it cleared up, I then applied a thick second coat, because I thought that it would only be time before it would come clear again, no matter how thick I applied it. I intentionally applied the second coat so thick because I was not intending to apply another, and I was worried about burning through when I wet sanded it. So I can only attribute the creamy patches in the clear coat to where I might have applied the clear coat too thick. Even after 1 month of waiting for the clear coat to clear, it didn't. By then it was definitely hard enough to wet sand, so I thought maybe sanding it back a bit might make the coat thin enough to cure under the surface. It didn't, and there are still creamy patches under the surface of the clear coat today. Just recently I sprayed some isopropyl alcohol cleaning product on it to remove any dust or grease from it for the photos, and as I rubbed the area with a cloth, the nicely polished polyurethane clouded up and it seemed rubbery and sticky to the touch. I suspect it is being broken up by the alcohol, but I really don't understand why this is occurring. Up until now, I have only had to rub it down with a dust cloth to clean it. Though I have only played it occasionally since it was finished, it has obtained at least 1 gouge on it from I don't know what, but I have treated it well and have no idea which tiny bump did it. I get the feeling that the fluidity under the clear coat means that I would have to keep it wrapped in cotton to keep it in its current state in the future. I'm not into relicking guitars and making them look beat up and well used at this stage, so I like to keep my guitars in the best condition they can be. So as of this video, 2.5 years later, it is still the failed Sunburst project it was when I completed the buffing. You will see how it turned out up close in the polishing and wet sanding videos. I just have a dirty feeling about this guitar now because it is a bad paint job and how easy it is to damage this paint and clear coat combination. I have a real Fender Stratocaster now that is a Sunburst, so in comparison, the look of this one always irks me now. It's as if you had a real product and also had the counterfeit version as well. How often would you use the counterfeit? When all is said and done, I am strongly considering sanding it back to repaint it a solid colour again. Seafoam green is the colour I am thinking of at the moment. It is a guitar that is a solid player for a Squire, and since I upgraded to some Alnico Strat 72 reissue pickups and locking tuners, replaced the bridge saddles and all the plastic knobs and pickup covers, it sounds great for a Squire made of plywood. So I'm quite attached to this guitar, but I have no pride in the way that it looks. So even though I have 2 Squire Strats in stock ready to be repainted, I would repaint this one next. So in summary, I have learnt a lot about painting, sanding, clear coating, wet sanding, buffing and modding on this one guitar project. So much could be said, but my learning curve can be witnessed by watching all of my other videos of projects I have completed since this one. Proof is in the pudding, as they say. Okay, so here's the solid advice I can provide based on my experience, mainly from this project, but also my projects since. Start with a water-based primer, as it can have either a water-based or oil-based paint applied to it, as water-based paint may peel off an oil-based primer. So your options are open with a water base. Paint at least 3 coats and then wet sand it smooth for the best possible starting point for your further coats of paint. If you sand through to bare wood, add another coat and wet sand again. Don't use enamel spray cans. Unless, refer to my theory mentioned earlier, which I do not intend on testing to verify. I have effectively used solvent-based spray cans, Belleton is the brand, and gun-sprayed water-based acrylic paint purchased in a plastic bottle from a major retailer where office workers might shop for things. Paint in a well-ventilated space, preferably not outdoors where bugs and foreign particles can be blown into your wet paint by the wind. Use oil-based polyurethane clear coat. Oil-based clear coat can be applied to solvent, water, or oil-based paints that you have used. I can't say much for nitro, other than what you can learn from other YouTube videos or on guitar making forums. Other than upping your personal protection equipment game, such as wearing a face mask, glasses, and a bodysuit to start with, I don't have much more to advise from this project. I did start out spraying this guitar with no mask or glasses, but quickly learned to always wear these as a bare minimum. So as I said earlier, you might see this guitar in a future repainting video, but possibly in a sound demonstration or comparison sometime in the near future. My muse is also telling me that I should also try some minor reshaping of the body, since I am sanding back down to the bare wood. Don't hold your breath though, as it might be next year, or it might be never at all. But enough of the mights and the maybes. I hope that you have learnt something from my somewhat failed project, or can at least respect me for accepting that it was. Again, before you judge, how many of your first do-it-yourself projects did you execute perfectly the first time and achieve a flawless outcome? I'll be waiting for your comments. Do not include IKEA furniture purchases. Just because you had to put it together yourself, it's not a do-it-yourself project. I'll see you again in my other videos, so until next time, have a bloody good one.